echoes of the fallen star. In the endless expanse of the Xylarian Rift, stars burned like scattered diamonds across the velvet blackness, and drifting between them were the ancient spires of the Council archives. Towering structures of silver and obsidian, they hummed with the recorded histories of 1,000 civilizations. No empire had ever fallen without leaving a trace here. And now, in the quiet glow of the archive's central chamber, historian Kalira Vane hovered over a single, peculiar entry, recorded in the Council archives: how humanity shattered an empire. Few had studied humanity directly. Most species considered humans primitive, their colonies confined to the outer edges of the Solari Rift, far from the galactic centers of power. Yet here they were, etched in the annals of the Astherian hegemony, a sprawling interstellar empire that had dominated the Xylarian expanse for over 4 centuries. Humanity had not only survived in the hegemony's shadow, they had destroyed it. Kalira's fingers traced the holographic text, highlighting the names that would become legends: Adrian Kale, captain of the freighter Stellar Warden; Sarina Voss, the strategist whose mind anticipated impossibilities; Yarrick Halden, a hacker who could bend enemy networks to his will; and Mira Liss, a biochemist who discovered ways to disrupt the energy cores of colossal warships. The story began, as most revolutions do, in obscurity. The Astherian hegemony ruled through fear, bureaucracy, and technology. Its fleets patrolled the stars, its governors oversaw every colony, and its warships were nearly indestructible. But in the Outer Rim, humans thrived quietly. Worlds like Irinder Prime and Thelis Minor were dismissed as mining hubs, their people considered inconsequential. Yet this very invisibility became humanity's greatest weapon. Adrian Kale had always understood that the hegemony's strength was also its weakness. Empires fall, he would say, not because they're weak but because they forget how to adapt. His crew of humans, few in number but unmatched in creativity, had noticed a critical flaw: the hegemony relied on a centralized command network. Disrupt it, and fleets would drift like ghost ships, unable to obey orders or even communicate. Sarina Voss studied tactical maps projected on the Stellar Warden's bridge. Her eyes darted across the holographic systems, tracing lines no hegemony admiral could imagine. She saw opportunities where others saw barriers, paths through nebulae that were considered impassable, and weaknesses in the hegemony's rigid chain of command. Yarrick Halden, once a scholar of Astherian systems, had intercepted encrypted communications and revealed that the hegemony underestimated humanity not because they were incapable, but because they were unpredictable. Mira Liss, meanwhile, experimented with destabilizing energy fields. Her breakthroughs allowed human ships to evade the destructive beams of the hegemony's capital warships, leaving enemy admirals scratching their heads. Humans had no empire. They had no legions. They had ingenuity, the one weapon the hegemony could never quantify or anticipate. The first test came swiftly. A hegemony patrol ship, the Crimson Talon, ventured into the Solari Rift to collect tribute. Adrian's crew, barely 100 souls, knew that a direct confrontation was suicide. Yet, using cloaked drones, gravity wave disruptors, and a sequence of maneuvers that defied every known doctrine, the humans disabled the patrol's communication grid. The ship drifted powerless, captured without a single human casualty. The outer colonies buzzed with excitement. Tales of human ingenuity spread like wildfire. Other species mocked their crude ships, dismissing them as insignificant. But humans were learning to fight asymmetrically, striking where the hegemony least expected and vanishing before retaliation could arrive. Kalira's archive projection shifted to a decisive moment. A human convoy threading through the Veil Nebula, the hegemony's main command hub on Vathar Prime just beyond reach. Adrian Kale stood on the bridge, eyes narrowed, a determined gleam in his gaze. Sarina's hands flew over the tactical console, plotting a course through gravitational anomalies that even the hegemony's advanced sensors could not penetrate. "What is it about them?" Kalira whispered, more to herself than to the empty chamber. "Why do they succeed where others fail?" The archives offered no answer. Only the cold, unyielding facts. Humans were unstoppable when underestimated. Their victories were never about brute force. They were about seeing the invisible, acting unpredictably, and embracing risk in ways no other species dared. As the holographic projection faded, the archive's lights dimmed, and the chamber fell silent. Across the Solari Rift, the hegemony remained unaware of the storm approaching its core. Its fleets were mighty, its bureaucracy efficient, its fleets nearly invincible, but it had not accounted for creativity, resilience, or the ferocious spark of humanity. And humanity was ready to ignite it. The first strike. Darkness hung like a veil over the Veil Nebula, where gas clouds swirled in shifting hues of violet and gold. It was a region so chaotic that even the hegemony's most advanced scanners struggled to produce clear readings. Humanity had chosen it deliberately. Through these clouds, small ships could move unseen, and a few well-placed disruptions could cascade into chaos across an entire sector. Adrian Kale stood on the bridge of the Stellar Warden, staring at the holographic display of Vathar Prime, the hegemony's command hub. Its gravity wells and orbital shields were legendary, considered untouchable by every fleet in the expanse. Yet tonight humans would touch them. "Course plotted, Captain," said Serena Voss, her voice calm but precise, every syllable carrying the weight of unshakable confidence. "The patrols are on predictable vectors. If we maintain the cloaked drift, the orbital scanners won't detect us until we're inside their outer defenses." Adrian exhaled slowly, his fingers brushing over the control console. "And the drones?" Serena's lips curved in a faint smile. "Already in position. They'll interfere with communications, create phantom signals, make the outer fleets think the hegemony's assets are under attack elsewhere. The Crimson Talon was just a test. This will be a statement." Behind them, Yarrick Halden tapped rapidly at a holographic keyboard, sending encrypted viruses into the hegemony sensor network. "They won't even know we're here until the first shields drop," he said. "By then it'll be too late to coordinate any response." And at the far end of the bridge, Mira Liss monitored the energy cores of the Stellar Warden. She adjusted harmonic modulators to match the nebula's electromagnetic flux, ensuring the ship remained invisible not only to scanners but to the hegemony's gravitational anomaly detection systems. Humans had no empire. They had no massive fleets. But they had creativity, precision, and courage. Tonight, those qualities would be weaponized. The first stage of the attack was subtle. Cloaked drones slipped past orbital defenses, broadcasting false fleet signatures in the wrong sectors, drawing patrol ships far from their posts. Communication hubs on the planet flickered under Jarrek's subtle interference, making commanders question the integrity of their network. In the command tower of Vathar Prime, Astherian officials frantically tried to recalibrate shields, unaware that the disturbance was human-engineered. Adrian's ship emerged from the nebula like a shadow sliding across a wall. The outer orbital shields of Vathar Prime shimmered briefly as the Stellar Warden's energy pulse synchronized with the planet's field. Myra's modifications allowed their weaponry to bypass standard detection. Small, precise plasma torpedoes that would sever the hub's external power nodes. The strikes were surgical. No unnecessary destruction, no civilian casualties. The objective was clarity: send a signal to the hegemony that humanity existed, that they were capable of reaching the heart of an empire, and that the rules of warfare would be rewritten. Explosions rippled across the orbital perimeter. Hegemony warships scrambled, their commanders shouting orders that reached no one. Communications continued to falter as Jarrek's code danced through their networks, dismantling coordination protocols faster than reinforcements could arrive. Serena leaned closer to the tactical display. "Outer defenses are destabilized. Timing the next strike, now." Adrian nodded. With a surge of quiet intensity, the Stellar Warden and its convoy accelerated, weaving through debris and plasma trails to hit the planetary power grid. The human ships moved in perfect synchronicity, each maneuver calculated to exploit the smallest weakness, the tiniest oversight. On Vathar Prime, alarms screamed as orbital shields flickered and died. Massive gates controlling fleet access ground to a halt. The hegemony's command structure, so confident and rigid, collapsed under a barrage of human unpredictability. And yet, this was only the beginning. As the humans retreated into the Veil Nebula, leaving a trail of confusion and damage, Adrian turned to his crew. "This is what they didn't see coming," he said, voice steady. "They've dominated the expanse for centuries, but they've never faced what we do when no one is watching, when no one expects it." Serena's eyes were sharp. "They'll retaliate. And when they do, we need to be ready. But tonight they know the universe is bigger than their maps and human minds are bigger than their calculations." Yarrick laughed softly. "They'll hunt ghosts for months, maybe years. By the time they figure out how we moved, we'll be somewhere else entirely." Myra's gaze was fixed on the fading energy signatures. "It's beautiful," she said quietly. "The way chaos can be controlled, if you understand it." For a moment, the bridge was silent, only the hum of the ship and the distant crackle of the nebula filling the void. Humanity had made its mark. Not through sheer force, not through empire or conquest, but through cunning, ingenuity, and the audacity to defy expectations. The Council archives would one day record this night in meticulous detail. The night when a handful of humans penetrated the heart of the Asterian hegemony and struck a blow no one saw coming. The night when humanity proved that even the mightiest empire could be shaken, not by warships or armies, but by ideas, unpredictability, and the courage to act where others hesitated. And in the darkness of the Xylarian rift, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter over the Solari rift, as if acknowledging that the game had changed. Humanity had not yet won. But the first strike had been made. Shadows across the expanse. The aftermath of the Vathar Prime strike sent shockwaves through the hegemony. Across the Xylarian expanse, command towers lit up with frantic alarms, fleets scrambled without orders, and governors demanded answers they could not find. The humans, who had barely 100 ships, had struck at the very heart of the empire, and vanished into the chaos before a single counterattack could land. In the cold halls of Asterian Central, Lord Tyrrwyn Kaler, the hegemony's supreme military strategist, studied the reports with a sharp, calculating gaze. His silver eyes reflected frustration and disbelief. "This is no random raid," he muttered. "This is intelligence, precision, planning. Some species, understands our systems better than we do ourselves." His aide, Commander Valira Sin, a bioengineered tactician whose loyalty was etched into her DNA, bowed. "My lord, preliminary analysis indicates that the attackers are human. A fringe species from the Solari Rift. Their ships are primitive, yet they executed maneuvers that would challenge even the finest Asterian admirals." Tyrrwyn's lips curled into a grim smile. "Primitive, yes. But cunning, dangerously so. Prepare the fleet. Mobilize all strike teams. Hunt them. And leave nothing behind." Meanwhile, in the outer colonies, humans were already moving. Adrian Kale's stellar warden drifted silently through a nebula cloud, cloaking its signature with Mira Lissa's harmonic modulators. Sarina Voss examined a three-dimensional map of hegemony patrols projected in mid-air, her fingers tracing hidden corridors between fleets, planetary defenses, and sensor nodes. "They'll adapt quickly," Sarina said. "We've shown them we can reach their core. They'll expect more attacks, so we need to strike where they won't look first." Yarrick Halden's hands moved over his hollow interface, hacking into nearby satellites and relaying false readings. "I can give them ghosts," he said. "Decoy fleets, phantom threats, entire fleets that exist only in their systems. They'll chase shadows while we move freely." Adrian nodded. "Good. Keep the rift covered. Mira, make sure the shield harmonics stay unpredictable. Sarina, chart the next course. We hit two systems simultaneously, hit hard, vanish, and repeat. If we're careful, we can destabilize them sector by sector." The first human-led sabotage operation in the outer expanse took place on Lilith Minor, a planet known to the hegemony only as a mining colony. Adrian's team didn't simply attack, it infiltrated. Cloaked transport pods carried small teams of humans directly into the orbital command station. Jarrek's viruses spread through the network, locking doors, scrambling sensors, and leaving the guards disoriented. Inside the command hub, Mira Liss oversaw the deployment of microfield disruptors, subtle devices that created minor but crucial power instabilities. Machines failed, communications went dark, and within hours the human team had dismantled the planet's orbital shield array. By the time hegemony forces traced the anomaly, the humans had already disappeared into the nebula, leaving chaos and confusion in their wake. Across the galaxy, the pattern became clear. Humans were not just striking, they were rewriting the rules of warfare. No longer did the hegemony's size and firepower guarantee dominance. Predictability was vulnerability. Lord Tyrrwyn Kaler, refusing to underestimate his opponents, convened the Council of Admirals. Holographic images of the human colonies floated between them. "They move like ghosts," he said. "They strike, vanish, and leave us scrambling. Every standard tactic we have fails against them. We must think differently. Predictability is our weakness, but it is also theirs. Humans act on intuition, improvisation, but they cannot maintain that across hundreds of systems. That is where we will trap them." Commander Sin, ever precise, suggested the first countermeasures. Deploy sensor swarms that could detect unusual harmonic fluctuations, increase patrol redundancies, and assign elite strike fleets to track anomalies. "They can hide, yes," she said, "but the more they move, the more they expose themselves. One miscalculation and we can annihilate them entirely." Unbeknownst to the hegemony, this was exactly what the humans anticipated. Adrian Kale's crew had studied their enemies' thought patterns, predicting how they would respond. Humans had no intention of standing in open combat. they thrived in chaos and subterfuge. Each feint, each diversion, each sabotage mission was designed not to destroy fleets directly but to force mistakes, fracture command structures, and sow doubt across the empire. Serena Voss leaned over the bridge console. This is what we've been building toward. They'll throw everything at us eventually, but by then we'll already be in position. We don't need to fight them head-on. We just need to make them question their certainty. Yarrick Halden smirked. And they'll never see us coming again. Not where it matters. Miralis added quietly, almost reverently, we are shadows across the expanse now. Everywhere and nowhere. They will never understand how we move because we do not move like anyone else. As the humans slipped into the nebula, the hegemony's fleets churned in confusion, hunting for ghosts. Entire command chains faltered, and for the first time in centuries, the Empire realized that their greatest strength, their order, their hierarchy, their control, could be turned against them. Kalira Vane's recording in the Council archives reflected the scale of the moment. Humanity was no longer an isolated curiosity. They had become a destabilizing force, a species that could challenge an empire without massive fleets, without overwhelming firepower, simply by being unpredictable, inventive, and relentless. And in the shadows of the Xylarian Rift, the humans prepared for the next stage. They had struck first. They had struck effectively. But the war, the real war, was just beginning. Humanity would not stop. The hegemony would not rest. And the expanse, once under the rule of one empire, was about to become a battlefield where ingenuity, courage, and audacity would determine the fate of billions. The gathering storm. The Solari Rift had become a quiet nerve center for a rebellion that had yet to be named. Hidden in the shifting mists of the Lorinth Nebula, the human fleet gathered like predators at the edge of the galactic hunting grounds. Ships of varying sizes, hastily modified from freighters, cargo haulers, and mining vessels, formed a patchwork armada. Each one bore the marks of ingenuity, energy modulators to mask movement, cloaking fields tuned to the nebula's magnetic flux, and drones capable of sowing confusion across an entire sector. Adrian Kale walked the bridge of the Stellar Warden, moving among his crew with the calm confidence of a captain who understood both the stakes and the strengths of those under his command. Serena Voss stood beside him, reviewing a massive holographic projection of the Astherian fleet positions across the Xylarian expanse. Their fingers traced lines of predicted movement, each path carefully calculated to exploit gaps in the Empire's patrol rotations. The hegemony is adapting, Serena said, her tone clipped but focused. They've increased patrol density by 32%, and they've deployed the first sensor swarms near the Vathar sectors. But they're still reacting, not leading. That's our advantage. Yarrick Halden leaned back in his console, fingers resting lightly on his interface. By the time they realize we're coordinating across multiple sectors, we'll already have hit 5 outposts simultaneously. I've prepared false readings and decoy transmissions for the next 72 hours. They'll chase phantoms while we move unseen. Miralis, monitoring the energy harmonics of their fleet, added quietly, every system we strike, every network we disrupt, erodes their confidence. Fear spreads faster than fleets ever could. Adrian nodded. Then we escalate. No longer isolated raids. This is the first wave of a campaign. The hegemony will know humanity exists, and they will fear it. The first coordinated strike unfolded across 5 systems simultaneously. Delis Minor, Irinder Prime, Vathar Outpost 3, Nerith Station, and Calith Reef. Each strike was surgical, leveraging human unpredictability rather than brute force. On Delis Minor, cloaked pods infiltrated the orbital command station, disabling shields and scrambling communications. On Irinder Prime, Jarek's hacking modules created phantom fleet movements, drawing hegemony reinforcements to empty sectors. Nerith Station's industrial core was destabilized using Myra's field modulators, cutting off energy flow to key defenses. Serena Voss orchestrated it all from the Stellar Warden, issuing micro-adjustments in real time. Now, all wings converge on Calith Reef. Keep drones active but avoid detection. Adrian's voice was calm but carried authority. Remember, our strength is in unpredictability. Strike with precision, vanish before they know we exist. The Empire will try to retaliate, let them. Every response creates a new opening. In the hegemony's central command, the effects of the strikes rippled through the bureaucracy like a shockwave. Lord Tyrwhenin Kaler slammed his fist on the council table as reports arrived from multiple sectors simultaneously. Impossible, he growled. They cannot move this quickly. 5 systems struck at once? How? Commander Valira Sin's augmented eyes scanned data streams. They are not a fleet in the traditional sense, she said. They operate more like a network, decentralized, unpredictable. Every strike is independent yet synchronized. It is adaptive warfare. Sherwenen's lips pressed into a thin line. Adaptive. Intelligent. We are facing a species that does not play by our rules. Increase fleet patrols. Assign independent strike groups to every human colony. And send the elite reconnaissance vessels to track them. Across the expanse, the hegemony scrambled to contain a threat it could not fully define. Entire command chains faltered, fleets shifted direction mid-orbit, and governors second-guessed orders that once would have been unquestioned. Human strikes were not just attacks, they were psychological warfare, proving the Empire could be shaken without a single massive battle. Back in the Lorinth Nebula, Adrian's crew celebrated quietly. They had not destroyed fleets, they had exposed the cracks in the Empire's armor. Serina's tactical map glowed with cascading paths showing the hegemony's failed attempts to intercept human ships. They're predictable in their unpredictability, she observed. Every reaction, every redeployment, they think they anticipate us, but each move only reveals more openings. Yarrick chuckled. And every signal we send, every decoy we launch, amplifies their errors. Soon, the hegemony will be chasing shadows and will leave their real weaknesses exposed. Miralis smiled faintly, her gaze lingering on the nebula outside the bridge. We are the storm they cannot see coming. And the storm has only begun. Adrian's expression hardened. The Empire will retaliate. They will come with everything they have. And when they do, we will be ready. We fight not just to survive, but to prove that no empire, no matter how powerful, can withstand the ingenuity, courage, and determination of humanity. The stars outside the nebula shone like silent witnesses. The first coordinated strikes had shattered the illusion of the hegemony's invincibility. Humanity had moved from isolated raiders to a coordinated force, capable of striking anywhere, anytime, and leaving confusion in its wake. In the Council archives, Kalira Vane's holographic recording noted every detail: the strikes, the strategies, the brilliance of human coordination. By the time historians across the galaxy would study these events, they would see not just a series of raids, but the birth of a legend. The rise of a species that could challenge an empire with nothing but courage, intellect, and audacity. The gathering storm was not yet over. Humanity had won its first victories, but the war for the expanse was only beginning. And from the shadows of the nebula, the humans watched, waited, and prepared to strike again. The first confrontation. The Xylarian expanse had grown tense. Every system now hummed with the energy of preparation. Hegemony fleets repositioned, defensive networks tightened, and governors demanded answers for the failures that had spread chaos across their empire. Yet no one could locate the humans who had orchestrated it all. In the outer reaches, hidden in the swirling currents of the Lorinth Nebula, the human fleet gathered once more. Ships that were little more than modified freighters now carried the firepower, sensors, and speed of true warships. Each vessel was equipped with Miralis's harmonic modulators to confuse enemy detection systems, cloaking fields that could render a ship invisible for critical moments, and specialized drones capable of sowing confusion among massive fleets. Adrian Kale stood on the bridge of the Stellar Warden, scanning the expanse through tactical displays. His expression was calm but sharp. Beside him, Serina Voss reviewed enemy positions, her fingers tracing invisible pathways that the hegemony could never predict. They've mobilized a strike fleet, she said, her voice measured. 10 capital ships, 20 escort vessels. They think they can corner us between the Calith and Nerith sectors. They're wrong. Yarrick Halden tapped rapidly on his interface, initiating a cascade of decoy signals. They'll see shadows where nothing exists. The real fleet will move undetected to their flanks. By the time they realize it, they'll be in the kill zone. Miralis monitored the energy harmonics across the fleet. We'll need perfect timing. Any disruption in the nebula currents could reveal us. I can compensate for most fluctuations, but we must strike together, synchronized, precise, and ruthless. Adrian's gaze hardened. Then let's show them what humanity is capable of. The hegemony fleet advanced into the nebula, their massive capital ships casting long shadows across the swirling gas clouds. Sensors scanned continuously, sending constant streams of data back to Vathar Prime. Every calculation, every algorithm, expected humans to behave like every other species they had encountered, predictably. They were about to be proven wrong. Adrian's fleet moved as one yet unseen, slipping between plasma storms and gravitational eddies. Cloaked drones were released ahead of the fleet, broadcasting false signals of decoy ships in multiple sectors. The hegemony responded immediately, diverting their escorts to intercept shadows that did not exist. Serina's voice cut through the tense silence of the bridge. Engage on my mark. Wait, now. The human ships broke cover simultaneously, weaving through the nebula's chaos. Plasma torpedoes streaked past hegemony cruisers, striking their shield arrays with precise, surgical impact. Disruptor fields released by the humans caused sudden energy surges, overloading circuits and leaving capital ships struggling to maintain power. Jarek's hacking modules infiltrated the hegemony's fleet networks, spreading confusion. Communications were scrambled. Ships misread commands. Orders arrived too late or in the wrong sequence. Within minutes, the fleet that had once inspired fear across 1,000 systems was floundering. Amid the chaos, Miralis coordinated the fleet's energy harmonics. Keep shields optimized, she called. Every surge we induce must be matched. If we synchronize correctly, the hegemony's weapons will misfire on each other. Adrian gripped the bridge rail, his eyes locked on the nearest capital ship, its hull reflecting the nebula's purple-gold light. We don't destroy the fleet, we dismantle it, he said. Make them ineffective, sow confusion and leave them exposed. That's our advantage. Serina adjusted tactical vectors for the smaller ships. Focus on their flanks and supply lines. Their fleet can't function if we control the edges of this engagement. Minutes stretched like hours. The hegemony struggled to regroup as the humans struck again and again. Each attack unpredictable, each movement calculated. Ships that had once seemed invincible now drifted powerless, their crews bewildered and panicked. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity in the nebula's maelstrom, the hegemony began to retreat, leaving behind crippled vessels and shattered coordination. Adrian's fleet did not pursue. They vanished back into the nebula before reinforcements could arrive. On the bridge of Vathar Prime, Lord Tyrwin Kaler slammed his fist against the console. Impossible, he shouted. A species with nothing but ingenuity has forced our entire fleet to retreat. Every calculation, every contingency, they anticipated it all. Commander Valira Sin's augmented eyes scanned the fleet reports. They are not just fighters, she said. They are a thinking force operating as a single organism. They are humans. Tyrwin's jaw tightened. Then we must adapt. Every hegemony fleet, every patrol, every command node must be reorganized. If they move like this again, our empire will crumble. In the Lorinth Nebula, Adrian Kale's crew exhaled in relief. Serina Voss allowed herself a faint smile. We made them hesitate. For the first time, the hegemony doubts its own strength. Yarek leaned back in his chair. And yet they'll learn quickly. This was our first major engagement. The next will be more dangerous. Miralis's gaze lingered on the distant stars. But we've proven something critical. They can be challenged. They can be outthought. That is the advantage humanity has always held. Imagination, courage, and the ability to act where no one else dares. Adrian placed a hand on the console. This was the first confrontation, but it will not be the last. The hegemony will retaliate and they will bring their full might. But we are ready. Humanity does not yield. Humanity adapts. And humanity wins. Above the nebula, the stars gleamed like silent witnesses. Across the Xylarian expanse, the Empire trembled for the first time. Humanity had struck the first blow. And the war was only beginning. The tides of rebellion. The Xylarian expanse was no longer silent. Across its outer systems, whispered tales of human daring spread like wildfire. Traders spoke of invisible ships, entire fleets appearing where none should exist. Miners on fringe colonies told of sabotage that dismantled orbital defenses without a single human casualty. Even distant worlds of neutral species began to speculate. Could humans truly challenge the Astherian hegemony? Hidden in the swirling clouds of the Lorinth Nebula, humanity's fleet gathered once more, larger now, bolstered by ships salvaged from hegemony raids and hastily converted freighters from sympathetic colonies. Adrian Kale stood on the bridge of the Stellar Warden, surveying the assembly with quiet pride. Beside him, Serina Voss adjusted tactical maps, tracing new routes through the expanse that avoided the hegemony's increasingly aggressive patrols. They're closing in on us, Serina said, her tone precise, almost clinical. Hegemony fleets are massing near Nerith Station and Calith Reef. They've reinforced planetary defenses and deployed elite reconnaissance units. They've learned from our previous attacks. Adrian's eyes narrowed. Good. That means they'll overcommit. Every empire that underestimates the unpredictability of humans leaves itself exposed. We just need to exploit it. Yarrick Halden, monitoring encrypted hegemony communications, smirked. They're panicked. Every fleet they deploy is second-guessed by their own commanders. Their calculations can't keep up with the uncertainty we create. And that uncertainty is spreading to their colonies. They're losing faith. Mira Liss, adjusting harmonic modulators across the fleet, added, and we're not just a fleet. We're a symbol. Every sabotage, every infiltration, every strike demonstrates that the Empire is not invincible. That's why other systems are starting to help us. Not with fleets, but with intelligence, safe harbors, and resources. The tide is turning. The humans' next operation was audacious. 3 coordinated missions would unfold across the expanse. Nereth Station, the Vathar supply chain, and a mining colony on the Lys Minor. Each operation relied not on overwhelming force, but on speed, deception, and precision. On Nereth Station, cloaked pods delivered teams that infiltrated communication arrays. Jarrek's viruses scrambled command networks, leaving fleets without reliable coordination. Supply convoys were rerouted into decoy zones. At the same time, small teams disabled energy relays with Myra's modulators, causing minor blackouts that delayed reinforcements. Meanwhile, in the Vathar system, Serina coordinated a strike against orbital docks where hegemony freighters were refueling capital ships. Human ships struck in rapid succession, releasing plasma charges that crippled the docks without massive destruction, then vanished into the nebula. The third mission targeted the Lys Minor. Local miners, inspired by humanity's courage, aided in sabotaging supply depots. The operation was swift, leaving the colony free of occupation forces and demonstrating that even the smallest allies could contribute to the rebellion. Across the expanse, the hegemony reeled. Lord Tyrwin Kaler's council reported simultaneous losses and chaos spreading from outer colonies to central supply lines. Their reach grows faster than we can contain, Commander Valira Sin said, frustration evident in her tone. They strike where we are weakest and vanish before we can respond. Tyrwin's silver eyes burned with determination. We will crush them. Every colony, every fleet, every node of resistance must be eradicated. Mobilize the Iron Vanguard, our fastest and most disciplined strike force. They will hunt humans relentlessly and cut off all allied support. Even as the hegemony mobilized its elite forces, humanity adapted. Adrian studied the Expanse's strategic map with Serina. They'll commit the Iron Vanguard, he said. That means other sectors will be lightly defended. We'll use decoy movements to draw them away from key points and strike where they least expect it. Yarrick nodded, his fingers flying over the holographic interface. I can feed them false signals, make them believe our fleet is in multiple sectors at once. They'll spread their forces thin trying to intercept shadows. Mira added softly, and by the time they realize the truth, the colonies we've aided will already be in position to resist. The rebellion is becoming self-sustaining. The humans' reputation spread faster than any fleet. Neutral species began offering safe harbors, intelligence, and even covert support. In one system, a small planet called Erythia Prime sent vital energy cores and crew specialists to reinforce human ships. Another world, Vesara, shared cloaking technology refined over centuries. Humanity's cause was no longer solitary, it had become a movement. As Adrian gazed at the nebula, he understood the larger picture. The hegemony is powerful, he said, voice steady. But power is meaningless when it is rigid, predictable, and unwilling to learn. We adapt. We create. And we inspire. That is our greatest strength. Serina placed a hand on his shoulder. And soon, the hegemony will realize that the more they try to control, the more they lose. The tides of rebellion are rising, and nothing they do can stop them entirely. Above the swirling clouds of the Lorinth Nebula, the human fleet moved like a ghost through starlight. The scattered colonies, the networks of spies, the allied species. Together they formed a new force no empire could fully anticipate or crush. In the Council archives, Kalira Vane's holographic records captured the moment. Humanity was no longer just striking, it was changing the balance of power. With every system liberated, every fleet disrupted, every ally gained, the Astherian hegemony's grip weakened. The tide of rebellion was rising. And the galaxy was about to learn that when humans fight, they do not merely resist, they reshape the future itself. Shattered Empire. The Xylarian expanse trembled under a tension that had been building for months. Hegemony fleets, once the unchallenged masters of the stars, were stretched thin, their command networks fractured, and their colonies questioning the very empire they had served loyally. Humanity, once dismissed as insignificant, now moved like a shadow across the expanse, striking at the heart and leaving chaos in its wake. On the bridge of the Stellar Warden, Adrian Kale surveyed the largest operation humanity had ever attempted. Hundreds of ships, assembled from reclaimed freighters, mining vessels and human-allied fleets, glimmered faintly against the nebula's violet-gold haze. Beside him, Sarina Voss traced the hegemony's projected fleet positions, highlighting weaknesses with surgical precision. "They've committed the Iron Vanguard and 4 additional battle fleets," Sarina said, her voice steady. "They think they've cornered us between Vathar Prime and Nerith Station. But we're not here to fight them head-on, we're here to dismantle the Empire itself." Adrian's gaze hardened. "Every fleet, every outpost, every command node they leave exposed as a target. We don't need to destroy the entire fleet. We only need to break the spine of their command." Yarrick Halden, tapping furiously at a holographic interface, injected viruses into the hegemony's fleet networks. "I've synchronized decoy movements across 5 sectors. They'll chase ghosts while we strike the real targets. Every signal they intercept will mislead them. Their coordination will collapse before the first volley reaches the outer defenses." Mira Liss monitored the harmonic modulators across the fleet. "Their weapons will misfire. Their shields will fluctuate. The moment we engage, it will appear as though the hegemony is fighting itself." Adrian nodded. "Then let's begin." The operation unfolded like a choreographed storm. Cloaked fleets slipped through gravitational eddies in the Lorinth Nebula, evading sensors that had once seemed infallible. Human drones created phantom convoys and broadcasted false fleet formations across the expanse, drawing the hegemony's forces into traps. At Vathar Prime, a select team led by Sarina Voss infiltrated orbital command stations. Precision strikes disabled core relays and severed communication links with the fleets already deployed. Ships in the outer sectors suddenly found themselves cut off from orders, their coordination collapsing in confusion. Jarrek's viruses spread like wildfire through the remaining networks, overriding automated targeting systems and forcing capital ships to misfire on each other. Small, agile human vessels darted between explosions and flaring shields, exploiting every crack in the hegemony's armor. Even the Iron Vanguard, elite warriors bred for centuries of conflict, struggled to adapt to a foe that did not fight predictably. Their formations broke apart as drones and microfield disruptors forced sudden evasive maneuvers. Ships collided, shields overloaded, and commanders who had once been untouchable now scrambled in panic. Mira Liss's energy harmonics wove through the fleet, creating patterns that synchronized attacks and shield fluctuations across hundreds of vessels. "Their capital ships are destabilized," she called. "Focus the torpedoes on the supply hubs. Without them, they cannot sustain the fleet." Adrian's voice rang out, calm but commanding. "Strike fast, vanish faster. Every hegemony outpost we disable today accelerates their collapse. We do not merely win battles, we unmake their empire." The human fleet split into multiple vectors, striking simultaneously at Vathar Prime, Nerith Station, and peripheral command nodes. Hegemony communications faltered completely, fleets drifted aimlessly, their strategies undone. Colonies loyal to the Empire began to rise against local governors, emboldened by humanity's victories. Across the expanse, the Empire that had once ruled with iron certainty fractured in days. The hegemony's grand fleets were scattered, supply lines destroyed, and once loyal colonies either abandoned the fight or openly supported humanity. The Astherian Council itself teetered on the brink of collapse. In the final hours, Adrian Kale led a strike directly on Vathar Prime, targeting the central command hub. Cloaked vessels approached under the cover of a nebula storm. Torpedoes and disruptor charges disabled outer shields. Inside the command structure, human operatives moved with precision, dismantling the infrastructure that had held the hegemony together for centuries. Lord Tyrwin Kaler, once the unshakable strategist of the Empire, realized too late that the humans had anticipated every contingency. "Impossible," he whispered as communications collapsed and fleets drifted powerless in orbit. The Empire's command was gone, replaced by confusion, rebellion, and fear. On the bridge of the Stellar Warden, Adrian watched the holomap of the expanse. Systems blinked free from hegemony control. Colonies had raised their banners in defiance, and human ships moved like shadows, guiding and protecting them. "It's done," he said softly. "The spine is broken." Sarina Voss allowed herself a rare smile. "Not just broken. Shattered. They will never recover the certainty they once had." Yarrick Halden leaned back exhaling. "They fought for centuries thinking they were untouchable. They weren't ready for ingenuity, courage, humans. Miralist gazed at the stars beyond the nebula. This is the future. The galaxy will remember tonight. The Council archives recorded it all. The months of human ingenuity, the strikes that shattered fleets, the colonies that rose in rebellion, and the empire that could not withstand creativity and audacity. Humanity had proven what no one else could. An empire's power is nothing against courage, intelligence, and the will to act when no one expects it. From the shadows of the Solari Rift, humanity had emerged as a force to be reckoned with. The Astherian hegemony, the mightiest empire of the Xylarian expanse, lay broken, not because of overwhelming force, but because humans understood the impossible, embraced it, and acted without hesitation. The stars above the expanse glittered like silent witnesses to the rise of a new order. The galaxy would never forget the name of humanity. And in the Council archives, Kalira Vane's voice whispered to the records, "Here lies the moment when one species dared to defy certainty and shattered an empire. Recorded for eternity. Remember this, humanity was the storm no empire could contain." Shattered empire. The Xylarian expanse trembled under a tension that had been building for months. Hegemony fleets, once the unchallenged masters of the stars, were stretched thin, their command networks fractured, and their colonies questioning the very empire they had served loyally. Humanity, once dismissed as insignificant, now moved like a shadow across the expanse, striking at the heart and leaving chaos in its wake. On the bridge of the Stellar Warden, Adrian Kale surveyed the largest operation humanity had ever attempted. Hundreds of ships, assembled from reclaimed freighters, mining vessels and human-allied fleets, glimmered faintly against the nebula's violet-gold haze. Beside him, Sarina Voss traced the hegemony's projected fleet positions, highlighting weaknesses with surgical precision. "They've committed the Iron Vanguard and 4 additional battle fleets," Sarina said, her voice steady. "They think they've cornered us between Vathar Prime and Nerith Station. But we're not here to fight them head-on, we're here to dismantle the Empire itself." Adrian's gaze hardened. "Every fleet, every outpost, every command node they leave exposed as a target. We don't need to destroy the entire fleet. We only need to break the spine of their command." Yarrick Halden, tapping furiously at a holographic interface, injected viruses into the hegemony's fleet networks. "I've synchronized decoy movements across 5 sectors. They'll chase ghosts while we strike the real targets. Every signal they intercept will mislead them. Their coordination will collapse before the first volley reaches the outer defenses." Miralist monitored the harmonic modulators across the fleet. "Their weapons will misfire. Their shields will fluctuate. The moment we engage, it will appear as though the hegemony is fighting itself." Adrian nodded. "Then let's begin." The operation unfolded like a choreographed storm. Cloaked fleets slipped through gravitational eddies in the Lorinth Nebula, evading sensors that had once seemed infallible. Human drones created phantom convoys and broadcasted false fleet formations across the expanse, drawing the hegemony's forces into traps. At Vathar Prime, a select team led by Sarina Voss infiltrated orbital command stations. Precision strikes disabled core relays and severed communication links with the fleets already deployed. Ships in the outer sectors suddenly found themselves cut off from orders, their coordination collapsing in confusion. Jarrek's viruses spread like wildfire through the remaining networks, overriding automated targeting systems and forcing capital ships to misfire on each other. Small, agile human vessels darted between explosions and flaring shields, exploiting every crack in the hegemony's armor. Even the Iron Vanguard, elite warriors bred for centuries of conflict, struggled to adapt to a foe that did not fight predictably. Their formations broke apart as drones and microfield disruptors forced sudden evasive maneuvers. Ships collided, shields overloaded, and commanders who had once been untouchable now scrambled in panic. Miralis's energy harmonics wove through the fleet, creating patterns that synchronized attacks and shield fluctuations across hundreds of vessels. "Their capital ships are destabilized," she called. "Focus the torpedoes on the supply hubs. Without them they cannot sustain the fleet." Adrian's voice rang out, calm but commanding. "Strike fast, vanish faster. Every hegemony outpost we disable today accelerates their collapse. We do not merely win battles, we unmake their empire." The human fleet split into multiple vectors, striking simultaneously at Vathar Prime, Nerith Station, and peripheral command nodes. Hegemony communications faltered completely, fleets drifted aimlessly, their strategies undone. Colonies loyal to the empire began to rise against local governors, emboldened by humanity's victories. Across the expanse, The empire that had once ruled with iron certainty fractured in days. The hegemony's grand fleets were scattered, supply lines destroyed, and once loyal colonies either abandoned the fight or openly supported humanity. The Asterian Council itself teetered on the brink of collapse. In the final hours, Adrian Kale led a strike directly on Vathar Prime, targeting the central command hub. Cloaked vessels approached under the cover of a nebulous storm. Torpedoes and disruptor charges disabled outer shields. Inside the command structure, human operatives moved with precision, dismantling the infrastructure that had held the hegemony together for centuries. Lord Tyrwin Kaler, once the unshakable strategist of the empire, realized too late that the humans had anticipated every contingency. "Impossible," he whispered as communications collapsed and fleets drifted powerless in orbit. The empire's command was gone, replaced by confusion, rebellion, and fear. On the bridge of the Stellar Warden, Adrian watched the holomap of the expanse. Systems blinked free from hegemony control. Colonies had raised their banners in defiance, and human ships moved like shadows, guiding and protecting them. "It's done," he said softly. "The spine is broken." Serena Voss allowed herself a rare smile. "Not just broken. Shattered. They will never recover the certainty they once had." Yarrick Halden leaned back, exhaling. "They fought for centuries thinking they were untouchable. They weren't ready for ingenuity, courage, humans." Mira List gazed at the stars beyond the nebula. "This is the future. The galaxy will remember tonight." The Council archives recorded it all. The months of human ingenuity, the strikes that shattered fleets, the colonies that rose in rebellion, and the empire that could not withstand creativity and audacity. Humanity had proven what no one else could. An empire's power is nothing against courage, intelligence, and the will to act when no one expects it. From the shadows of the Solari Rift, humanity had emerged as a force to be reckoned with. The Asterian hegemony, the mightiest empire of the Xylarian expanse, lay broken, not because of overwhelming force, but because humans understood the impossible, embraced it, and acted without hesitation. The stars above the expanse glittered like silent witnesses to the rise of a new order. The galaxy would never forget the name of humanity. And in the Council archives, Kalira Vane's voice whispered to the records, "Here lies the moment when one species dared to defy certainty and shattered an empire. Recorded for eternity. Remember this, humanity was the storm no empire could contain."